This book, our Constitution, protects our society and empowers us to govern. The protea leaves are us, the people, who freely elect our voices in Parliament. The drum calls the people of Parliament, through whom we govern together. And the sun is our country, healing our past, improving our lives, and energizing our potential. Together, our Constitution, our people, our Parliament, and our country are building our great South African nation. Parliament TV, Channel 408 on DSTV.
This is the Know Your Chairpersons of Parliament series. Welcome, I am Tepo Mori. I am joined by Ms. Ramolobeng. She is a member of the National Assembly. Thank you so much for making the time.
You're most welcome, Tepo.
Please introduce yourself and the committee that you chair.
My name is Kgomotso Ramolobeng. I'm the portfolio chair on Correctional Services for the 7th term. I'm not new in Parliament. I've been part of the 6th administration. I have been in the Justice and Correctional Service, which in the 6th administration was clustered as one department. Then in the 7th administration, the President decided to decluster the portfolio and make it separate portfolio committees. Then I get to be in the Correctional one.
Now, with the declustering, what is the primary goal or mandate now of the Portfolio Committee of Correctional Services?
What would be our focal point as the Portfolio Committee, based on our last Portfolio Committee meeting, was that we need to support the department in this ongoing unannounced raids and do as much more oversight visits, but unannounced ones to correctional centers, so that we're able to bridge the gap between the department and correctional centers. Because there's a lot that is happening in the correctional center, and a lot of people don't know that correctional service or correctional centers are a high security risk of the country. That's why it forms part of the security cluster, because correctional centers houses the most dangerous you could ever think of, inmates, rapists, murderers, even those who are doing corruption and so forth.
Yes.
So we're an end user. The correctional service is an end user of SAPS and justice when it has concluded its process. Then we house what the process of SAPS and justice would have concluded on.
Let's talk about the importance of public participation and how you now as a chairperson will ensure, and what strategies you will ensue to ensure that public participation takes place, that the relevant stakeholders are involved, and that the public is involved in decision making and the work of the committee itself.
Look, we appreciate the public comment when they already, when I assumed the responsibilities as the chair, I've been getting a lot of emails, either in the work email or my personal email. Others go to an extent as WhatsApps and SMSs, because it's easy to locate me. Once you say Kgomotso Ramolobeng, it gives you all my social media stances. It gives you also my number, which when I agreed to be a public servant or be in Parliament, it means I'm now accessible to the entire country.
Yes.
Therefore, my contact numbers becomes at that stage.
Good day and welcome to Parliament TV, broadcasting live on DSTV channel 408 and streaming simultaneously on Parliament of South Africa's YouTube channel. I am Shihlamari Songobeni, here with you from our studios in Parliament Precincts in Cape Town. This week we turn our focus to the state of our correctional services. The constitutional mandate of the Department of Correctional Services is not only to incarcerate, but to rehabilitate and reintegrate offenders back into society as law-abiding citizens. But how effectively is this being done? In the second week of October, the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services conducted a crucial series of oversight visits to facilities in the Eastern and Western Cape. The committee delved into persistent challenges ranging from aging infrastructure and severe overcrowding to the effectiveness of rehabilitation programs. A key area of scrutiny was the procurement of food, particularly bread, and the department's new centralized strategy for its long-term bakery contracts, a response to audit findings of millions in irregular expenditure. Joining us now to provide her first-hand observations and insights is the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Ms. Kgomotso Anthea Ramolobeng. Chairperson, thank you very much for making the time to be with us, and welcome to Parliament TV.
Thank you so much, and once again, thanks for having me back.
Let's start with your observations as you visited these provinces on your oversight visits as a committee. What did you observe?
The Portfolio Committee took an oversight to the Eastern Cape on the 7th to the 10th of October, and also we finished off the leg with Western Cape. I think on the 10th we're in the Western Cape, and out of that oversight, the Portfolio Committee took a decision that will do announced visits to certain correctional facilities, and then we'll do unannounced as well in others. We did 2 unannounced visits in George Correctional Facility and 1 in Mdantsane Correctional Facility outside East London. I think 30 kilometers outside East London. And George, it's I think around 60 kilometers towards Oversight when we went to Oversight Correctional Facility. So the observation is that in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, they have dilapidated infrastructure in most of their facilities. 2, their kitchens, there's issues of equipments. They have non-functioning equipments in kitchens. If it's not a stove, it's ovens. Most of them, the cold rooms are not working, which is a worrying factor. How do you store meat? How do you store everything that needs to be in the cool places, and so forth? And I think it was in Mthatha where roof was bad, to an extent that there were foils that were coming down from the roof. And the worrying point is that pots are laying there. So meaning if you are cooking and whatever that is falling from the ceiling gets inside the pots, and that would cause a health hazard. And I think we must be glad that nothing so far has happened to the inmates to an extent where there would have been health issues that emanates from anything that needs to be cooked. So that's 1. 2, the health certificate in almost all facilities. I think it was only in St. Albans Medium B which they had the compliance certificate. So all correctional facilities and all the centers were visited, the compliance certificate or health certificates were non-compliant. Some ranged from 2001, others 2021, others they never had. Since the kitchens have been operational, which is a worrying concern, a worrying factor, that how do you operate, or how do you have a kitchen being operational fully without health inspectors annually coming to inspect whether you are still in good condition to be able to cook food? That was a worrying factor. The last part was based on the standard of procedure of correctional facilities and their codes, is that when food is prepared by inmates, there would be officials that are guarding the process. But once the completion of food being prepared, the head of center or the second in command must taste the food to ensure that the food is in good condition or is palatable for anyone to be able to consume. So before it gets to be dished out to inmates, it must be tasted by the head of center or the second in command. But what we have realized is that, and there is a book that whoever between the 2 or whoever is designated to taste must sign to say on the 27th October, Kgomotso Ramolobeng, I've tasted food in Polsmo Correctional Facility and it's in good condition. Then there is the menu where they sign as well if there's been a deviation or they followed the strict menu. So what we found in that process is that there also was non-compliance in tasting the food.
So they were not signing?
They were not signed. So some were signed 3 days, 4 days back. And you ask why. I think we're in St. Albans, where we arrived in the kitchen. I asked, has food been tasted? Because we arrived immediately after breakfast. Remember, breakfast is around 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we arrived after 9. Has anyone tasted the breakfast before it get to be dished out to inmate?
Yeah.
Then there was that thing, no. Have you signed? Yes, I signed the book. Did you sign that you have tasted the food before dishing out? And I think the lady official that responded made an indication that I have signed to indicate that we did not deviate from the menu. The menu was bread, porridge, and tea, but I didn't taste the food. So who tasted the food before it got to be dished out to inmates? No one did. But they've signed where it makes an indication that after tasting the food. But they did that because they realized when we started in Mthatha, and when we went to an extent of Mkanduli, we went to East London, we went to Mdantsane. These are key questions we've been asking when we enter kitchens. Have you tasted the food? If you have, let's see the register. So she went and signed to say she has tasted, but she did not taste, which it was something else. So those are some of the things that we found. They have a lot of vacancies. They have a lot of acting officials. There are a lot of acting head of centers, a lot of acting area commissioners, and the most crucial part, they have a lot of vacancies in security personnel. So which makes it difficult for even inmates to be able to participate in programs. Because for inmates to participate in skills programs, to go to the workshops, there's a certain number of officials that must be there.
So the ratio...
Look, the vacancies we've seen in the Eastern Cape far surpasses what we've seen in Gauteng and in KZN. So in terms of vacancies, Eastern Cape is the worst. And I remember in one portfolio committee when they came and spoke on the skills program, the rehabilitation processes, the number of inmates participating in these programs were low in the Eastern Cape. And the question was asked, why are these numbers so low? And an answer to the portfolio committee that were given was that inmates in the Eastern Cape don't want to participate in programs. But when we got to the Eastern Cape, especially in St. Albans, we found an official who works in the workshop. He was alone. He made an indication that he's alone, and he can only accommodate about 15 to 16 officials. Beyond that, he can't, because of equally it's a danger to it. But to such an extent, he indicated that there is more inmates that want to come to the workshops because of they want to come and do whatever that happens in the workshop, because it's the steel work, woodwork, and all that. But he is unable to allow them. So there is a willingness of inmates wanting to participate, but because of the shortage of officials to be able to augment the ratio issue that forbids. So those are some of the things that we found. The shocking last one was the sex exchange.
Okay.
One. We have learned that there is a sex exchange between officials and inmates in St. Albans. So it was confirmed. There is investigations on it. Officials that have been found doing all that sex trade, they are under investigation. Some, I think, have been placed somewhere else in correction, which was a worrying factor. Why would you place them in community corrections? You should be putting them on, either you are suspending them or something, but you can't say when you have faulted, transgressed, you are shifting me from here, you are putting me, are you saying community corrections is not, it's just a useless thing? So those are a number of issues that we found in the Eastern Cape. And then in the Western Cape, it's I think with Oversight, it's a small facility, but it's poorly managed. I think this has to do with the leadership or the management that runs it. Two, it's a facility that had an incident in August where 4 officials were stabbed by inmates because there was an unannounced raid that had other departments forming part. SAPS was part of it, and we've learned that SAPS had brought about 60 officials, more than what DCS had brought on that day. They raided, obviously they confiscated contrabands. Amongst those contrabands would be cell phones, sharp weapons, knives, and so forth. And then the following day we've learned, and this report, this conclusive report, we received it there, the oversight as well, the investigators. And then they made an indication that the following day in the morning, inmates retaliated. In their retaliation, they then stabbed 4 officials. So those inmates who stabbed officials were then identified, they were isolated and so forth, and then unfortunately one of the inmates then was later confirmed dead.
The inmate or an official?
An inmate.
Oh, okay.
An inmate. So it's still a matter that is under investigation. We have indicated to the National Commissioner, once the report has been concluded, they need to appear before the Portfolio Committee and present the report so that then we can close up the matter on that aspect. So those are the observations that we had we had a very quite intense.
Sure. You've just described like a plethora of challenges that you've picked up, but I think there are issues of non-compliance that you've also spoken on. Are there consequences on some of these things, especially from the department?
We did indicate that there must be consequence management in some of these challenges because of their man-made. They are not. How do you operate a kitchen for that long without any compliance? That's one.
Yeah.
Whoever is responsible in ensuring that there is compliance must answer to it. We ask for consequence management on the sex trade of officials.
Yeah.
Any official that is found to be doing such a deed which is unlawful must be, in actual fact, it must be an immediate dismissal.
Yeah.
All officials that are equally found with contraband, smuggling of contrabands, it must be an immediate dismissal because of that speaks against the security issues. You can't be trying to take out contrabands and then you as officials. So those are some of the recommendations that we've put to the department to try and remedy. Look, it's going to be, it's an ongoing thing that they do. I think the last time they came to present on their investigations, how far have they gone, how many officials and so forth. Yeah. They're yet to come back, I think, on the 18th of November to give us all those who are on suspensions, all those who are dismissed, inclusive of the Goodwood incident also of an inmate stabbing an official and later that inmate succumbing who has been declared dead. But the center would have said it's a natural death. The autopsy would say it's unnatural because of the inmate was found with multiple stab wounds on his body and were alerted by the family. By the way, when it went to view his body, to say, but if you're saying it was due to other things, why are we seeing fresh stab wounds? So those are some of the reports, the cases that we said they must try to wrap up on all 243 centers and bring to the Portfolio Committee. But we want to echo that where there is transgression, there must be consequence to it.
Yeah. Now, you've touched on an interesting element for me. I think you're saying you conducted announced and unannounced visits. Do you find, what do you observe when you go to a place unannounced vis-a-vis when you go announced? Do you find something different from what you would find if you were to appear announced?
We do. What we appreciate when we do unannounced is that the department doesn't plan for us. Remember, when it's announced, they prepare for us.
Okay.
They clean, they get systems in check, in line.
Okay.
By now they know what becomes our focal or focus areas when we go to an oversight.
Yeah.
They make sure that all those checks and balances meet up. They even brief officials on how to
respond to certain
yes,
questions.
certain
Okay.
questions, or what is it that is relevant that needs to be known to the committee. To an extent, they even suggest which blocks of cells or blocks should we go to. So I normally, if they say to us, we should visit block A in the remand detention, I tell them I want to see C, because of C will not be prepared for us, but A would be prepared. Because when you go to A, you'll find a bed neatly done and all those things. But when the moment you divert them and say, no, we've seen your A, let's go to C, you see C is a mess.
Yeah.
So the reason we do unannounced is to get the real gist of what is happening in correctional facilities without being prepared. And that's why we do those unannounced. And when you get there, you really then get, like for instance in Mdantsane, when we did the unannounced in Mdantsane immediately after we left East London, because we did not tell them. We were leaving East London to PE. So we said, because of it's on our way, let's get in. We found, and Mdantsane has juvenile section, we found in the juvenile a 30-year-old. We arrived, did the kitchens walkabout. I asked to go for juvenile. They said they have a juvenile section.
A 30-year-old.
I then said, let's go to the juvenile. When we get there, I chose which cell they must open. Then when we get in, we found a 30-year-old inside. Then I asked, didn't you say it's a juvenile? It is. Why is a 30-year-old here? He says, why are you here? The inmate then indicated, I've been trying to tell them to correct my ID. They're refusing. What they've wrote on their file is not my age.
Okay.
So those are things that we get to be exposed of. And you see, those are things that are done by inmate. It might be that the reason is there might have been a deal to say the juvenile would be more or less harsh than the adult side. So put him there, doctor the age, and so forth. So that's what happened to that. And we said to them, you must correct this. And you must bring a report on how you've corrected that instance.
Now, the committee did visit these facilities, I think a year ago or so, or not even a year ago, in your previous visits. Like you went to these facilities, and again this month, you go back to some of these facilities and find issues such as infrastructure decay, overcrowding, and many others that you have mentioned. How would you describe the department's responsiveness to some of the recommendations that you've made in the past? Has there been any improvement, particularly on issues that you've raised previously?
There have been. I would lie and say there hasn't been. There has been. Yeah. What we've done, we've brought a new, I think because of I hail from the 6th administration, there's a lot that I learned and were taught in the 6th administration. That departments, they know that when we do an oversight, we come, and because of the many facilities, you'll not be able to come. You'll not be able to come back to check whether what you have recommended, are they effectively implementing it.
Yeah.
And this is a case in point with KZN in Durban-Westville. We have recommended that they must shut down the kitchen in Durban-Westville because of it was highly dilapidated, non-functioning of equipments, kitchen equipment. The floor was mess. There was a waterfall in the corner. It was just generally a mess, that kitchen. Then we recommended it must be shut down. They did shut it down. We then recommended that they must have, they must bring inmates. They must use inmate labor.
Okay.
As part of giving skills programs to inmate, they must take inmates there to refurbish that whole kitchen. They did take inmates, scrap it up and all that thing. So we're learning, and this happened in February when we did the KZN. So from March, they've been giving us a report up until April. So since April, the kitchen has been left like that till now.
Okay.
So what we do, what I did, I assigned members of the portfolio committee. Those especially who are staying in those provinces would have passed.
Okay.
that as part of their work equally, they're assigned to these particular centers.
Okay.
So in Durban, Westville, Honorable Moali, who used to be part of the portfolio committee before his party would change him, was assigned to Durban, Westville. So we're able to get progress on the recommendations through him doing unannounced.
Yeah.
In Paulsmo, we did the same. We have Honorable Ngaba, Kabelo Ngaba, who stays here in Cape Town, who does the unannounced in Paulsmo to check part of the recommendations we've put, are they being implemented. There was a case in point also in Alagabusha, where the issue of the bakery. The bakery was complete and everything. There were equipments for the bakeries. I think they were left with two, the mixer and the bread cutter.
Yeah.
That makes slice. Those are the two equipments that they were short of to have the bakery full operational or functional. And they told us in February that would be procured in the next 2 to 6 weeks. I learned 2 weeks back that the bakery, as we have left it, is like that. Then I send them pictures. I've requested a report. They've given me a report that in the next, before December, they would have procured that and it will be operational. But in some facilities like Modape was on a blink of collapse. The management issue was a mess. We've learned that the former area commissioner has left. They have an acting one. They've permanently appointed the head of center. Though they are, the recommendation that the portfolio committee has put within that center, they were able to do some of them. But what we need to do is in some of the centers that we have not yet allocated members, to go back as the portfolio committee to check progress on some of them. But in some they have. The bread issue, for instance, it's our recommendation that said they must go back and review the bed price because of it was inflated. And they indeed went back to renegotiate with suppliers on a flat rate, and then they came back last week in the portfolio committee to give us the figures to say, from what we have recommended, this is where we are, and we have learned from that, they are now going to save 11 million out of it. So they do adhere to some of the recommendation, even though it's not all in totality, but there is adherence to the recommendations that the portfolio committee puts.
On the bread issue, is there no way the inmates can, or the facilities can bake their own bread in the facilities?
There is. The department currently has 12 bakeries across 243 centers. And some of those bakeries, like Durban Westville, there is a bakery. It will supply the management of, so it can supply around 6 to 7 facilities.
Okay.
So an indication last week that we got equally is that the department wants to expand even more bakeries, which is 8. And I made an indication that in that 8, they must not include Kalagabusha, they must not include Pietermaritzburg, because of those bakeries are ready. They're just left with minor equipment. So the 8 must be isolation of the 2. So it means once these ones by December completed, they will have 14, plus the 8 that still needs to be expanded on. They will be sitting at 22. So for now, the bakeries, the bread in the 12 bakeries that the department has is being baked by inmates. And in actual fact, we're in St. Albans. I think we ate the entire loaf, if not 2, because the bread was so nice. It was brown bread. It was extremely nice. If there's one thing I do when I do oversight, I taste the food to indeed say it's in good, not necessarily I'm checking for them, but I just want to have a feel, because I remember early this year there was an outcry to say the food that inmates are taking is not nice, and all of that. There was a complaint on the soya mince. So I think when we went to KZN, I tasted the soya mince. It tasted nice. It actually reminded me on when I was growing up, when we used to eat it. I saw nothing wrong with it. Tasted the bread when we're in East London, in St. Albans, and I even encouraged members to taste. We all tasted, and by God mercies, we're still here. So it's nothing to worry about, because others worry, can't eat food that is prepared by inmate. How will inmate prepare food that is going to kill themselves?
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Chairperson, on the recent oversight visit, You followed up, as I've alluded to earlier, to a lot of recommendations that emanate from your previous visits, and that would include the department's turnaround strategy, and that would touch obviously on issues of overcrowding, staff shortages, and all sorts of things. Are there ways, how do I put it, how is it working on the ground, and which of the areas do you think need urgent attention, particularly on issues of staff shortages and on issues of overcrowding? And I'm singling out overcrowding because there is an incident where you've picked up an inmate who has been in detention for years.
For 7 years.
You know, without going for trial. How are those things being attended to?
Look, we've picked up that there are a lot of remand detainees who are in correctional facilities across, who have more than 2 years without being trialed. And the case in point would be the Mthatha incident in the female section when we went there and we saw the young woman who indicated he has been remanded since, I think it's 7 years this year, if not 2018, 2019. And every time he goes to court, there's a change of counsel, there's a change of this. So her matter has not yet started to be engaged in the courts, and now it's 7 years. And what is also strange is that her co-accused are outside, and she's the only one inside, which it's a worrying point for her to say, but if those I'm accused of doing the crime with are outside, why are we not all outside? If we're all outside, why are we not all inside? So those are some of the things that we've seen on overcrowding. On the issues, of course, Section 49G of the Correctional Service Act of 111/1998, it's very clear that if you have inmates that or remand detainees that have more than 24 months and have not yet been trialed, you must send all those applications or referrals to the courts to review or either roll out that. So there has been those applications that have been sent, but some of them have not yielded positive results. Some it's 1% result or 2%. So what we've done as the Portfolio Committee to assist the department, we've written to the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Ms. Kubai, to appear before the Portfolio Committee to touch on this, to touch on the issues of bail. You have inmates or remand detainees that have received bail as less than 1,000 rand who are unable to pay for that. And you have those who have who have done minor petty crimes, whom can be put under correction supervision or other measures or go to community corrections without being incarcerated in correctional facilities. So those are the discussions that we want to have with the minister. We've written to the minister. We've written to her around May or June. She has responded. She's appearing on the 18th of November to touch on what I've just alluded on, those who have 24 hours being in correctional facilities who have not yet been tried. The case in point is the young woman who has 7 years, including those who have less, to try and assist on the issue of overcrowding. That's 1. 2, we have 315 state patients who are incarcerated in correctional facilities instead of going to mental health institutions. We still need to invite the Minister of Health to talk to this matter, because as you have correctly put, there is a shortage of officials. Because of the department, there's a high number of vacancies. So you can have security officials guarding mental health inmates. They are not trained to be able to be in supervision of those. So that's another matter, and this is a contributor as well to overcrowding. You have foreign nationals who are in our facilities. There are around 25,000 of those. 13,000 are sentenced, 12,000 are remand detainees. We, as the Portfolio Committee, has taken a decision to review the correctional, that we said to the department, we want to review the Correctional Service Act 111 of 1998. There's a clause in section 73, subsection A, subsection M, and subsection B that talks to the length and form of a sentence.
Yeah.
So what it says is that once Kgomotso is incarcerated, once the judge hands over a sentence and says Kgomotso is incarcerated, must be incarcerated in this particular facility, the judge makes an indication, or the magistrate, to say which facility you must be incarcerated, and 2, it makes an indication to say you are to serve your sentence fully in that particular sentence, in that particular facility.
Yeah.
So meaning, even if we say to Home Affairs, deport the inmates to their countries to serve the sentences in their countries, they can't be, because of already there is a judgment that says they must stay in that particular facility until they've finished their term. So we need to amend that clause to be able to allow for that, because of we're calling for an inmate exchange program between South Africa and other countries, especially the SADC countries, because of that is the high number of those who are concentrated in our facilities. Your Malawi, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, so that when there is that inmate exchange program, South Africans who are serving sentences in their countries can be brought back, and then we take to them. But they must be bilaterals. There must be engagement. There must be discussions. We have had a discussion between myself and the Portfolio Committee Chair of Home Affairs, Honorable Chabani, and we've met the Speaker on how can we start that process, that engagement with our counterparts in the SADC countries to see if this idea of an inmate exchange, will it be accommodated? Because they can say, no, but they did the crime in your country, so you must see to it. And even those who do crime in our country, will keep them. So that even if we change the laws, you don't find a situation that you change the laws, but you are unable to implement those laws that you were able to change on. So those are discussions we had with the Speaker, who is willing to assist to an extent that she has equally invited us to take part on the SADC programs, I think in November or first week of December, for us to be able to have those bilaterals with other SADC countries. Yeah. The last one is that you would remember that the department is an end user. There is a cycle to the justice cluster. It starts with SAPS when it makes an arrest. It goes to the courts to make a determination whether you are granted bail or not. And if you are not, you are then remanded in a correctional facility. And once your completion of the case, if you are sentenced to a certain years, you are brought to a correctional facility. So what the Department of Correctional does, when there is a court order that says you must keep Kgomotso or you must keep Sibongiseni, they can't do anything. What they need to do is to start preparing for your bail and officially be counted within their numbers. But the high number on overcrowding, whilst I've spoken to those elements, once we can clean up all those elements, the foreign national issue, the state patient, those who are remanded for more than 24 months without any hearing or their matter being before the courts, perhaps can alleviate the pressure. Because if you look at the current stats, the 166,000 of inmate population, 61,000 of them are remand detainees. And the bed space is 107,000. So if you take 61, you are left with 105. So meaning
so
you are correctly, everyone has their bed.
On remand detainees, are alternative centers like community-based something that can be looked into, and is it implementable?
That's what part of the reason we want to see the Minister of Justice is on that basis. Okay. That can the courts look at, especially those who have minor petty crimes, look at community corrections, community supervisions for them, so that they then, instead of being remanded in correctional facilities, they undergo that correctional supervision or anything to lessen the pressure of correctional facilities. Yeah. We want to do a study, if we get to be granted by the House Chair, in Washington, on the community correction model that they use. Okay. I know in some countries, I think it's USA, where they have an ankle bracelet matter to make sure that you do not, if you are told that
you stay in this state or in this city.
Besides city, you must be in house arrest.
Oh, yes. Okay.
There must be no movement. So if you were to move to the shops, it must be signed off by the DCS officials. Okay. So that even if that bracelet makes an indication that you have gone outside your radius, there is a reason why you would have. We wanted to see if we can't go to those countries to learn and perhaps benchmark on those programs and bring them in their country for implementation on part of easing on overcrowding. But the best part of it is to speak to the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development to see if the justice on its own system, courts, magistrates, can assist as well in coming up with, if there is, how best can that be implemented to ease the pressure. Because I learned over the weekend, I think on Sunday, it's Monday today, yes, on Sunday, that there was a multi-task force disciplinary, what do you call them? There's the roadblocks.
Oh, yes.
Which had Home Affairs, SAPS, and all of those in the justice cluster, where they do those roadblocks. And when I read, they said they made an arrest of 700 people. Every time I read those things, I say, wow. Further overcrowding, because most of chunk of those is immigration issues. We equally need to look into immigration matters. Home Affairs also must come into play. The Lindela must become effective, because if you're putting people in correctional facilities that the courts would have said you have transgressed on immigration laws, and you are given 3 months or 6 months to be in a correctional facility, why are we not taking them to Lindela? Put a place for them outside correctional facility, because the moment they enter there, they need to budget. It costs around four something for one inmate a day. And if it's not on immigration issues, if it's someone on a petty who might have stolen a bread in the shop and so forth, you check what that person has stolen vis-a-vis how much the state is going to spend. And which takes you to what the former minister Peggy Cele said last week in the ad hoc
committee,
making that comparison issue of the cost and the crime and all of those, to say we need to bring a system, and the executive needs to assist, to bring a system that is able equally to assist, that whilst the state does not spend a lot of money.
Yeah, because that was going to be my next question, actually.
I'm preempting.
No, it's okay. Yeah, in terms of, I mean, you've mentioned a high or a large number of foreign inmates, foreign nationals who are in the facilities, and I'm looking at the cost per day. Like, how much are we spending on foreign inmates in our facilities, and is it sustainable?
I think it's around 407, if I'm not correct, if I'm not wrong, or 470, somewhere there. And I think when we received the report, I think a month was around 13,000 an inmate. Look, the department is spending a lot of money on that. And you know that departments would have received budget cuts, and DCS continues to receive budget cuts. Yeah. So they need to reprioritize their budget, and in reprioritization, must be inclusive of making sure that inmates do get what is due to them, and what is due to them, it's meals.
It doesn't matter whether an inmate is documented or undocumented, as long as they are in the facility.
Once you are in the correctional facility, you must be given meals. Those meals must be breakfast, lunch, and their dinner. I might not say dinner because of they received their last meal, I think, around 5, and they received their second meal around 12. And then 12 or 11, and then they receive their first meal at 6 to 7. So it doesn't matter what happens. What happens is that they must get those 3 meals. And I remember in one center, I think there was a confusion. I just forgot which one, where they made an indication that they prepare twice. And I think I'm the first one to say twice. So do they get 2 meals a day? They said, no, Chair, it's not 2 meals a day. When they prepare for lunch, they immediately also prepare for dinner. So inmates then get to be given their lunch and dinner at the same time. So it's up to them how they put it. They either put it aside and all of that. So I then said, okay, but those are what you'd find in the department. Look, once you are incarcerated in a correctional facility, the department needs to make sure that you have a bed. It's not a bed that me and you comfortably sleep in, but that space with a sheet and a blanket, and make sure that if you don't have toiletries, you don't have underwear or any clothing, obviously there are those yellow ones which are for remand detainees, and then the orange ones, the blue ones are for remand detainees, the yellow ones are for the sentence, and then there's white for those who work in kitchens. If you see inmates wearing white, it's those who operate in kitchens. So all those who are cooking in kitchens are on white overalls. They need to make sure that you get to be given, especially once you are sentenced. But in other centers where it's remand detainees, because there is a high number, they might not be able to get, so they will be wearing their clothes throughout. But once you are sentenced, you don't wear your clothes anymore. You must wear the uniform. So there is that. Those who are unable to buy, they are given the toiletry. It's not the toiletry that me and you use, but it's basic thing. And there is also, they prepare underwears. I've learned in, I think it's St. Albans, where they even make them vests. So, those are some of the things that one gets when they get to be incarcerated in a correctional facility.
Chair, there are a lot of things that you've discussed here with us, especially as observations from your site visits. And in closing and briefly, what recommendations are you making to the department, and what is Parliament doing to make sure that these recommendations are implemented by the department?
Look, one of the things that we took a decision on, or one of the things I stand by, is that I refuse to be a benchmark critique. A person who will sit in the chair meeting, critique everything that gets to be brought in the portfolio committee, and then give recommendations, and then we go and then we leave it at that. We follow it through to the latter, to an extent that if we would have requested or asked for reports, they don't come before the portfolio committee, we schedule them for that particular matter. They know. Once I say we request the report, they know within the timelines that we've given them, they must send that report. If not, they get to be scheduled. So like I indicated as well, where we've passed, we leave a member who resides in that particular province to make sure that from time to time does the unannounced. There are facilities that we've adopted as the portfolio committee that we're going to see to it that in the state we're found when we went to Oversight, and by the time we conclude this term, which is the 7th administration, there must have been improvement to them. One of those is it's Modape, which I was speaking to, which we're paying close look at it. The second one is Oversight in the Western Cape. We are still debating yet to take polls more, because it seems to have a lot of things that are happening on it every time. So part of us adopting correctional facilities that really, really need attention to them is that we focus on them and make sure that by the time we conclude, there must have been progress to it. But this does not mean we then don't also focus on other facilities. They might be better off than these ones that we're faced, which we need. But we do follow through recommendations. And what I'm happy about is that we have a national commissioner who is very responsive to an extent that they do follow through what we recommend. I would say out of 100, at least what I can give you is that around 50 to 55%, they've done what we would have requested the review of the Correctional Service Act of 1998. It's the Portfolio Committee recommendation to say, let's review this act. It's old. The last time it was reviewed in 1998. We are no longer living in the era of 1998. There's a law that has changed. There's a law that we need to amend and talk to. The department, when it came presenting the APP, they spoke to it, the reviewing of the Correctional Service Act. That is part of what we want. Two, the renegotiating of the cost of price of bread.
Yeah.
It's the recommendation of the Portfolio Committee, the prioritization of bakeries to save cost in the department is part of the recommendation of the Portfolio Committee. So where I'm sitting, there are a number of recommendations that we've put that the department is adhering because of there is that relation between the Portfolio Committee and the department that is known, that is open between the two, is that we're here to work and all of us are here to hold those responsible accountable. And to our point as the Portfolio Committee is the executive and that administration. So their role is to go back and hold those in the department accountable to make sure there is work. So, and after that, it's love and joy, but work must happen after all.
And work will happen. You have a lot.
It is happening.
You have a lot on your plate, Chairperson,
do,
and we thank you very much for taking some time to be with us today and discuss the outcomes of the oversight visit and the recommendations that are put forward. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much for having me once again.
It's a pleasure. A profound thanks once again to the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services, Ms. Kgomotso Ramolobeng, for providing such a detailed and candid assessment of the state of affairs in the corrections space. This discussion has shed critical light on the immense challenges within our correctional system, from holding the department accountable for past promises and tackling systemic issues like overcrowding to addressing serious allegations of internal sabotage and ensuring the new centralized bakery model delivers both efficiency and integrity. The work of the committee is vital in ensuring that Department of Correctional Services fulfills its constitutional mandate effectively and transparently. Once again, we thank the Chairperson for gracing us. For more in-depth reports and live coverage of committee meetings and sittings of Parliament, stay tuned to Parliament TV on DSTV channel 408 and follow our YouTube channel. Remember, you can join the conversation on our social media platforms as well using the handle @Parliament of RSA. From myself, Shihlamari Songobeni, and the entire Parliament TV team, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.